Okay, folks, welcome back to the next episode of the Irrelevants podcast.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Today we are drinking Canadian Mist because we only drink the finest whiskey that costs less than $15.
It's pretty good, folks. I'm not going to lie. Seth knows how to make a good drink.
Yeah, I am Irish. But later on I do have Jameson, and I know you might not participate, but I will.
Yeah, man. I've been taking just we'll call it sober summer so far, right? Just been drinking water, cutting down my coffee, making sure not to have extra sugars, trying to work out every day. It sucks.
It sounds
pretty hard on the body, but it's raw living if there ever was,
It sounds legitimately horrible. I wouldn't want to do that. The only thing that makes going to work worthwhile is that at the end of the day I get to have a beer.
Dude, honestly, that was the move.
Yeah.
I'm on currently, for those listening, I'm on the job hunt. Out here in Maryland, where I live in PG County, jobs are scarce. There's very little going on.
Where I live in the entire United States, jobs are scarce.
Yeah. But you've been seeing all the news, right? About like places like McDonald's and meatpacking facilities who just can't find people to hire,
and they're increasing their wages massively. But then it's like I would still be making less than I do now if I worked there. But when I was unemployed, which was most of COVID, I could have worked there, but then I would have to think about going to a bar and saying to a girl, I worked a deep fryer at McDonald's. So
yeah, that's the thing, right? A lot of these jobs suck, but someone's got to do them, Like the meat, like at a meat packing facility out in the Midwest, someone's got to pack that meat.
Yeah,
it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, or it's going to go bad,
Or you end up with a massively inflated prices for beef like we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it'll swing back. I mean, you probably will anyways. I mean, the value of that labor is increasing. Which what I was going to say is like, maybe we're swinging back around to a point where we think of manual blue collar labor as sort of respectable work to do again.
I've always felt
I know. But the thing is, I respect people who do that kind of work. I do technically do that kind of work in my current job.
Yeah.
But it's like, would you yourself want to do it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing, right? In school, and in the public school system, even at private schools that I attended, the push is to take the SAT and apply to college. Everyone wants you to be a doctor or a lawyer, something that requires you to go to college. When in reality, 60-70% of all jobs in society need to be that manual labor, blue collar work.
East Asia would disagree with you. That's why there's so many vending machines.
True.
That's legit why there are so many vending machines in East Asia.
True, so but there's no shame in being like a plumber or a carpenter. That is very necessary for society.
They make bank. I mean, especially plumbers and carpenters, you point out too, it's like specialized skills within manual or, blue collar working jobs.
Yeah.
And you're unionized.
Oh, yeah.
So you get tons and tons of benefits.
Dude,
my mother, who has a white collar job, has never had dental insurance.
Really?
Yeah, because lawyers don't get a union.
True. There's
no lawyers union.
You've met my friend, you know him?
Yeah, I met him, I think, like once.
Yeah, back at St. Mary's. His father is a carpenter, and he picked up the trade after dropping out of college, and dude is doing fantastic. He's been living on his own, for like the past 2-3 years, just doing carpentry work, and apparently he loves it.
Yeah, my grandfather was a carpenter.
It's very gratifying work, to see the physical product that you produce at the end of the day, rather than just a bunch of spreadsheets, come pay time.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that, There's absolutely no shame to working in blue collar work, but I think there's a lot of people who just don't want to do it.
There's a stigma,
like it's not
for city folk for sure.
I mean, it's not even that I wouldn't want to do blue collar work; it's that I just don't know. I don't want to deal with how other people would think about the fact that I do blue collar work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like it'd be we're still pretty young, so it wouldn't be the hardest transition ever. But I wish that more vocational work was something put in front of me when I was back in high school,
Yeah, my one cousin, she was smart. She did not do college. She just went straight into vocational school.
Where was the AP woodworking? Where's the AP plumbing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what needs to be as available
AP
in
welding.
school.
I mean, do you know how many welders we need?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And welding pays good money.
Dude, you know what's gonna be a big thing for that in the future? Welding in space. Have you seen how welding works in a vacuum?
You're gonna need an astrophysics degree to do that shit, dude.
Of course, yeah.
That's not gonna be blue collar work.
It's going to be a long time until you have the blue collar asteroid miner, but when that day comes, those people are going to be making bank.
Oh yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it was Neil deGrasse Tyson who said the first trillionaire is going to be the first person to capture an asteroid and mine it in the orbit of Earth.
Yeah, but then $1 trillion will be worth pretty much nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, because Elon Musk has way more money than Rockefeller ever had. But if you adjust for inflation, Elon Musk isn't even close.
Dude,
he has like a third the wealth of Rockefeller.
You know what's crazy? You and me just being like middle class, we live better than Rockefeller did in terms of our access to healthcare and exotic foods and opportunity to travel. Yeah.
I mean, just basic things. Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Maybe he had running water, but I don't worry about running water. It's not like fancy for me to have running water. Everybody I fucking know has running water. I have refrigeration.
Yeah.
I have a TV. You know, those are things that he could have never dreamed of, despite being the wealthiest man in all of human history.
Yeah. Well, I think it's debated. It's between Rockefeller, Mansa Musa, and King Solomon.
Okay.
But it's really hard to determine the value of.
Only one of those do we have, like, calculatable wealth.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I have stories about Mansa Musa, and I can make assumptions based off of those stories, but I don't know how true they are.
Dude, he's like Trinidad James, all gold everything.
All gold on my chain.
Dude, whatever happened to Trinidad James?
He released one good song, and...
Yeah, true.
I mean,
it's true.
He was done because he had all gold on his ring.
In the beginning,
on his chain, all gold on his watch.
In the beginning, there it looked like he was going for the same trajectory as Chief Keef, but apparently Chief Keef still puts out stuff and still has fans.
Yeah, I mean, he's got like I wouldn't call it a cult following. It's bigger than a cult following. You know, he's got a following.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily I'm not in love with Chief Keef, but
yeah, he has some bangers that remind me of the good times in high school.
Yeah, yeah.
Those days have long passed.
Yeah.
Do you listen to any new music that's come out like lately?
I mean, I still listen to. I guess I still listen to Lo the Human, who's still fairly underground. Or Lou the Human. Newer stuff. I don't know. I guess I don't really learn about newer stuff until somebody else shows it to me. Because I'm not one of those guys that like goes out looking for the new stuff.
Yeah,
it's just that's how I found Brockhampton. Is just someday someone played Brockhampton in a car.
Dude, my sister loves Brockhampton.
The Saturation albums were good. After that, I mean, what was the one? Iridescence was a miss, and then Ginger was fine. Ginger was just fine.
You're speaking. I was gonna say Chinese to me, but I know a bit of Chinese, so you're speaking Greek to me.
Ich spreche Deutsche.
Yeah.
Their first 3 albums were good. Since then, it's not been good. The best rapper in their group was arrested. So,
that's some real street cred right there.
Yeah, but on charges he definitely did. But then he got acquitted. And now he makes Amir Van. He still makes good music. He probably committed statutory rape. Yeah.
Yikes.
And I think he was also connected to like some sort of violent crime. It was like, I want to say it was like aiding and abetting a murder in the first degree.
Yikes.
Yeah, but he was acquitted, so not guilty.
That seems to be the rock star, rap star lifestyle, right? It's like it's not surprising when you find out these people commit terrible crimes.
Yeah, what was surprising though was the whole thing with Jeff Epstein, where I realized how many, like, even if they weren't guilty, it was just like how many people were connected to a child predator.
Yeah, dude.
Like that was
ton.
Like I don't believe that I'm connected to any child predators.
Like it reminds me a lot of Harvey Weinstein, where there's like 15-minute compilations of YouTube of people like Michelle Obama, like Oprah, like all these huge figures saying like Harvey Weinstein is the best. Without him, we couldn't have done it, folks. Let's give a round for Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, and it might just be that there's just one bad apple in the bunch. You know, it's like it might just be that it's like there are all these billionaires and, you know, politicians and famous people who like they got to associate with each other to stay in power. You know, it's just how it works. And it just happens to be that there was one who was sour. You know what I mean?
You know what's crazy though is that no one came out against Harvey Weinstein until they'd already made their career off of his help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
They
a
might not.
little
They
sus.
might not have known though.
Everyone knew. Everyone knew.
How do you know that though?
Come on, dude. It's Hollywood. It's the inner circle.
Listen,
They know what's going down. You don't think anyone knew Roman Polanski was a pedophile?
Okay.
Come on.
Take it this way. I could have a friend right now who is a pedophile who is hiding it from me. And I don't know. Like, I don't know all of my boys' like sexual desires.
Yeah.
I don't regularly ask them. It's like, so what kind of things are you into? You know, like
But
it's just not a question that comes up.
This was Harvey Weinstein's hiring practices, you know? Like young female actors trying to make it big in Hollywood.
Well, that's fairly normal again with the with wealthy Hollywood executives.
That's what I'm saying, though. Everyone knew. And no one said anything until they had already made their careers.
Well, that's just status quo in Hollywood, bro. That's just how Hollywood works.
I'm not going to write it off. I think it's terrible.
But pedophilia, I don't disagree, but it's how it is, and I can't do anything about it. But pedophilia is very different from, like, what Hollywood, the standard Hollywood, like, oh, you're a young actress, you know?
I don't think it is, dude. Look at what happened to Charlie Sheen.
Well, I don't know anything about what happened to Charlie Sheen.
Apparently, he got molested pretty early on, and then
Did he talk about that?
Yeah, I think so.
I did not know about that.
Then he went on to molest Corey Feldman when Corey Feldman was 13 and he was 19, and he was like, "This is just how Hollywood works.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
This is just the name of the game. You have to pay the price if you want to be part of the club."
Who is Corey Feldman?
There was back in the 90s. There was the two Coreys, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, and they were pretty popular back then. One of them committed suicide, I think. The other one, I'm pretty sure, is still alive, but not doing great.
This is a complete non sequitur, but for some reason it just hit my brain. I wanted to talk to you about it earlier. I was watching Joe Rogan recently, rewatching one of my favorite episodes, which is the one where he had Hamilton Morris on.
Oh, yeah.
The one that you told me about.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's an idiot.
You're not wrong.
You're
not wrong.
The man is not very good at listening. He'll bring up a question or a comment afterwards, and I'll be like, "That wasn't related."
I know what you mean, but he has.
It's like the one time where his line, "Have you ever done DMT before?" would be appropriate.
Yeah.
But he doesn't ask that.
Yeah. He's good at building a comfortable repertoire between him and the interviewee.
Yeah, you would be comfortable with Joe Rogan.
He's good at letting people say what they need to say. He doesn't always counter it when he needs to. He doesn't always give context that needs to be there. But he is an open platform where people from all kinds of backgrounds can just, talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that, but you're right. He's not the best interviewer out there.
Yeah. There was something else that I was going to say. Oh, wow.
The Hamilton Morris episode, Joe Rogan, Hollywood.
I mean, I remember everything we were talking about. I just can't. I had like this thought in my mind and then I started listening to you, which is something Joe Rogan wouldn't have done.
God damn.
Oh, I hope this episode doesn't go big. I respect the man. Oh, no. Okay, I remember. It hit me again. It's weird that he's a comforting guy, considering he's like a fighter. You know? He's like this giant muscular guy who makes you feel comfortable.
Well, here's the thing. Like, it makes me think of someone like Eric Andre, who, when they're on air, is the weirdest person you can imagine. But off air, apparently, he does a ton of meditating and eating like vegan food.
And he's a very normal and very intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Like, you ever hear him talk about the inspirations for the Eric Andre show?
I haven't actually. What did he say? What did he point towards?
He knows a lot about what he's talking about, like about the art of sort of a talk show.
Didn't he go to like Juilliard or some like high level art school?
Yeah. I can't remember the one, but yeah, he knows his art.
Yeah.
He's actually an incredibly intelligent guy.
So when it comes to professional fighters, of course there's some of them who have a ton of CTE and are really violent outside of fighting. But for a lot of those people, they're incredibly placid, normal people,
Yeah, but I don't feel like, okay. Mike Tyson, I've seen him on Joe Rogan. I've seen him in interviews. He seems like a very nice guy.
Yeah.
If you put me in a room with Mike Tyson and had me speak to him, there is no way that I could be comfortable. Because I'd be like, the entire time I'd be thinking, dude, you bit off somebody who was unconscious's ear.
Yeah.
whatever you say, I agree with. You know, you could start saying how great Stalin was, and I'd be like, yeah, Mike.
Sure thing, bud.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Please, I like my ears.
I don't know. I think we have to separate the public persona versus the private person.
He bit off someone's ear.
That was back in it. He was like in his 20s then, super testosteroned out, constantly fighting. He's a different man than he was then.
Yeah, I can see your point. Still terrified of him.
Okay, yeah, sure. That'll always be in the background, but I don't know. It's weird to go from me saying all of Hollywood is complicit in this pedophile scandal rings and shit
to looking at the nuances of people's
to saying the nuances of yeah, that's a little discordant, but I don't know. I think you got to separate the person from the work.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Like I don't like. Okay, Michael Jackson definitely did some child predation.
Did you hear about one of the latest court cases?
No, what happened?
Yeah, I don't know how guilty he is.
What was it? One of the people who was assaulted who came out? Because that's
allegedly assaulted.
Allegedly assaulted, but that's a very normal thing with pedophilia cases for people to cover it, for the people who were the victims to cover it up.
True.
You know, I mean, that's very, very normal psychology.
Of course. But I don't know.
Like, you would need physical evidence to.
I wouldn't say with 100% certainty that he was like a pedophile molester.
Okay, and we don't have really any definitive physical evidence, but when you have a place called Neverland, which is full of children's amusements, and you have the children sleep in your bed with you, we've gone slightly beyond circumstantial.
You know who else did that, weirdly enough? Gandhi.
I've heard about that.
He would sleep in a bed with his 14-year-old niece.
And wasn't the idea
to prove his chastity?
Yeah, it's like, I can resist temptation.
As if the temptation was ever there to sleep with your 14-year-old niece.
Yeah, it's like
what the fuck?
Yeah, I guess it's a different time and place. You know, maybe that was just normal there. Because I mean, it used to be it used to be in our society that you would marry an 18-year-old, a woman would marry an 18-year-old guy when she was 13, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that was true.
Which isn't something I'm condoning. I'm just saying, you know, in a different time and place, that was considered to be normal.
Yeah.
But, you know how you could prove your chastity to me? Don't sleep in bed with anybody.
Yeah, that would do it just as well. Yeah. That would do it just as well.
It's like, so long as you were honest about that and there was some way to verify that, I'd go, yeah, okay.
Was he married? Do you know?
I got no idea. I don't know a lot about Gandhi.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I don't know all that much about him.
I know that he was kind of racist.
Yeah, again, different times, right? Different time, different place.
I guess everybody didn't like black people back then. It was just a bad time to be black in general.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for us living in any day and age to not judge the people of the past by the moral standards we hold today. But it was a different time. It was a different place.
Yeah, like the thing that I find very unfair when people are like bringing up that Thomas Jefferson had, you know, slaves and they want to tear that. It's like everybody had slaves, which doesn't excuse it, but like you have to look at things from their frame of time.
Exactly.
It's like it wasn't. It was just how things were back then, which is an unfortunate thing to say, but it's true. It's just kind of how things were back then.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Like,
you know, and I didn't build a statue to him because he had slaves. I built it because of the great things he did as a founding father.
Yeah, dude. Like last summer when they were tearing down that statue of Abraham Lincoln in California, I think, and they said it was because he didn't properly demonstrate that Black Lives Matter, and it's like, really? Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves, didn't adequately show. Okay, whatever.
The one who assured that they got citizenship.
Yeah. Dude, you know what's really weird? Have you ever read the 13th Amendment in its entirety?
I know about the one loophole.
It doesn't ban slavery for prisoners.
Yeah, which is why slavery for prisoners still exists.
Which is why Kamala Harris was able to use forced prison labor to fight forest fires.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a bad person. She is a bad person.
She actively engaged in slavery.
Okay. What do you think about Biden? I'm not hating him.
Not a big fan. Not a big fan.
I'm not liking the inflation crisis, but other than that, I think he's doing all right. I like how he just likes
his foreign policy is god awful.
I actually haven't heard anything about his foreign policy.
Okay, so he pushed the withdrawal date from Afghanistan from, I think it was supposed to be May 20th to September 11th for entirely ceremonial purposes.
Okay.
Guess who's marching around Afghanistan stirring up trouble now?
Oh, the Taliban's back? Yeah, of course they are.
The people we signed the peace deal with under Trump.
Yeah.
That's really bad.
And you understand how they'd be pissed.
Yeah. And
it's
Biden's...
like you just pushed it back another half year?
Yeah.
How do we know you're going to leave?
Exactly. If you're going to change it just for ceremonial purposes, what would stop you from just changing it on a whim?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily disagree with the Taliban on that.
It's like you could have just restationed them in Saudi Arabia and brought them home on September 11th or something like that.
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of better solutions to that.
Yeah, and then with his comments about North Korea in his first month in, he made some pretty disparaging comments. Guess who's restarting their nuclear testing?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can say a lot of bad things about Trump. His foreign policy was pretty good.
Bro, he nailed 6 historic peace deals, 4 of them between Israel and Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah.
That was... I'd never seen anything like that in my life.
Because it was Saudi Arabia made peace, Jordan made peace, the UAE made peace.
Yeah, the UAE.
Yeah.
And one other country.
Was it Lebanon?
I don't think... It might have been Jordan. I don't know.
It was Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE were the 3 we know. I can't remember what the other one was.
There was one more. But anyway, regardless, it was astounding to see peace forming in the Middle East. Even if it wasn't fully cemented, it was much better forming than it is.
Yeah, there's
right
a
now.
war in the Middle East that hasn't stopped since the 70s. It's just been on standstill.
Yeah. Not a big fan of that. I don't like how Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline. Like, America under Trump had just reached energy independence. And that is... Environmentalists should love that. That's the point where we can start really looking at, renewable energy sources, because our baseline energy needs were met.
Yeah.
Shutting down the Keystone and messing with oil transportation taxes and shit, dude, like, I don't know. It's not looking good economically or geopolitically.
Yeah. No, it's not a good look. I mean, and I do think that we need to switch to renewable energies. I mean, we absolutely have to.
Nuclear all the way.
Yeah, I mean,
nuclear to the moon.
And I mean, you could have debated global warming, and I think you still can. I mean, I think there's room for debate within global warming. Don't get me wrong. That anybody who says the science has been done is delusional. Science should technically never be done. But it's like, at this point, you have to acknowledge that global warming is a thing and that we need to do something about it.
It seems very fanatical when it comes to rabid environmentalists. They're like, they believe that global warming is 100% man-made. They're forgetting that there are cycles of heating and cooling that the Earth regularly faces.
That's true, but we're not helping.
No, of course. Like, I take a nuanced approach to it. I think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. We could certainly do better when it comes to our carbon emissions and greenhouse gases. But to deny that there are also other environmental factors that can be factored in, you're lying. You're not being honest.
I mean, basically, any time that you're using you're looking at one variable for a causational link, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing in the real world is caused by one variable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's unheard of,
What do you think about Biden's gun policy? As a firearm owner yourself, what do you think?
I don't like it. But that's what I'm going to say. I'm a registered member of the GOA. I mean, do you know the crazy uncle theory of politics?
No, go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. If you take Americans across the board, like if you take Americans as a whole, they're fairly moderate across the board.
Yeah,
on pretty much every issue. If you take an American individually, they're also fairly moderate across the board, except for on 1 or 2 issues.
Okay.
Where they're extreme in one direction on that 1 or 2 issues.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And that's that's the crazy uncle. It's
sure,
extreme on these issues.
Yeah, because
my crazy uncle issue was guns. I mean, that's the thing that's like,
dude,
you come and take them from my cold.
The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. It is that simple.
It is in black and white. Yeah.
There's no room because
And anyone who argues that the second part of it, in order to or the first part, in order to maintain and establish a militia, it's like, yeah, okay, they're talking about a militia of the people.
yeah, yeah.
They're not talking about states' militias. No one gives a fuck about the states' militias.
It's like any way you slice it, gun control to any degree is opening the door to tyranny. Period.
Mhm.
Period. When you have a government that tells you you don't have the right to defend yourself, congratulations, you're living it under tyranny.
Yeah. And it's like there's so many people, it's like just from a practical sense, I would much rather defend my house with my own firearm than call the police and have them get here in 5 minutes when I'm already
Absolutely.
fucking dead or robbed.
Yeah, when seconds count, the police are minutes away.
Yeah,
you know what they say?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Or I've also heard the thing, it's like you can be against guns and God, but if someone breaks into your house, the first 2 things you're going to do is pray to God for a gun.
Yeah. Spot on, spot on. But it's like, yeah, dude. And then the crazy part is that people who want to ban guns for citizens, well, up until like last year, they didn't want to ban them for cops. They wanted like at the end of the day, when you have a mass shooter, you need a good guy with a gun to stop that from happening.
And there's been several instances of a good guy with a gun stopping it.
Just last week, that happened. I forgot what state it was, but there was this crazy guy in the middle of the street, and he was telling people to get on their hands and knees, lie on the ground, and he was going to execute them. Good guy with a gun came through with his hunting rifle, stopped him dead in his tracks.
Yeah,
literally.
Good. I mean, I'm not glad that person died. Clearly, that person probably had mental illness,
Yeah.
which is at the root of this problem. My dad can remember when people used to come with their pickup trucks and to school with their guns, and just they'd show the teachers and everything their guns. And the teachers would be like, "Oh, that's a nice piece. We got to go shooting sometime or something like that." It was just a hobby that people had. It wasn't considered abnormal, and in the modern day, we've developed all of these mass shootings, despite the fact that guns were just as available, if not more available, in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, dude.
I wish that guy that got shot dead could have been taken somewhere to get the help that he needed, but it's a mental issue, and at the point that he's trying to execute people in the street, somebody needs to stop it.
Dude, that's the thing. We have a serious mental illness crisis in this country that is not being addressed.
And it's difficult to tell where it's coming from,
Yeah.
Because a lot of people want to blame mental health medication, but we've gotten a lot better with that recently.
Honestly, yeah.
We understand it a lot more than we did, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot of people that point into like modern society, which is what I tend to lean to, is like, maybe it's like the 24-hour news cycle or the way that we're living our lives right now, which feels very disconnected. It's just sort of driving people over the edge,
I think the news has a lot to do with it.
And I think the internet does too.
Yeah.
It's
because a lot of these people, I don't know. I've never interviewed a mass shooter, but you got to think a lot of these people are just looking for recognition in one way or another.
Yeah.
They know they will be on the news. They know their name will be seen by everyone, and they will be known.
And then I think there's like on the internet, there are these sort of circles of people who are all like, you couldn't have found another person like that before the 90s, Like if you were like that, you couldn't connect with another person who had that same sort of mental illness, that same sort of perversion of their thought processes, that they would want to make people lay down in the streets and execute them.
Yeah, dude, that is absolutely insane.
And so we need to find a way to address what's at the heart of the issue, not just like, oh, let's take away the guns and this will stop, because then they'll just get knives.
That's the thing. If someone wants you dead, they will find a way to do it, even if they have to do it with their bare hands.
Especially if they're that mad.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to make manure illegal?
Because you can use it to make fertilizer explosives?
Yeah.
It's like, I know it's cliched.
Or gasoline?
Yeah. Or cars themselves.
Which have been used before.
Yeah, dude, that's what you see. Massive gun bans in the UK, and there was this like spate of killings like 4 or 5 years ago where it was all by car, and it was happening like every other weekend.
Or the police in the UK now wear knife-proof vests.
Yeah, dude, have you ever seen their weapon confiscations?
No, I've not.
They will have kitchen butter knives. Literally, I've seen spoons. Literally, I've seen spoons. And it's like,
were they sharpened spoons? Like the other end was sharpened or something into a shank?
dude, it's
Which
like,
one? Even if you ban knives, I can. If I'm motivated enough, I can sit there on the curb and just sharpen a fucking spoon.
it's the motivation that's the
Yeah.
problem.
No,
I know it's
absolutely.
really cliched, but guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Man, it's the same thing I think about, like, and this might be a more controversial point, but the drugs don't kill people. People kill themselves with drugs.
Yeah, honestly.
Heroin's never jumped out and into somebody's arm to kill them. You know, they put the heroin in their arm.
Yeah, man, and it's the motivation that needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
in a lot of cases, it's not.
And I think at the core root with drugs and guns, with drug violence and drug overdoses, it's the same root. It's people who have mental illnesses. It's people who are maybe not trying to get help but need to get help in some way.
Like we talked about I think on the episode with John, we talked about how the Swiss government combated heroin addiction by opening up.
Yeah, I was the one who talked about that.
Yeah, and by having therapists on site who were addressing the problems in the people's lives, which was leading them to want to consume heroin, they fixed the addiction issue.
And they came at it with both sociology and psychology. Sociology, because it's like fix the internal problems, fix the external problems,
Yeah.
And they didn't throw them in jail and give them a criminal record and prevent them from ever. Because, I mean, like, if you were, let's say, involved in drugs, you were caught for possession, you went to jail for, probably like 3 years or something like that, maybe 2. Once you get out, you have to say to every employer that you go to, because they all ask, this, you've been on the job hunt. I was on the job hunt not that long ago.
You can do that. Or you could just sell more drugs, which is the thing
Yeah.
It's not addressing the issue. And once we're at a place in society where we are able to address these mental health issues, you're going to see crime drop in a lot of places. Hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because there'll always be poverty.
Oh, I mean, you're literally quoting Jesus. Yeah. Jesus said there will always be poor.
And that's the thing. Poor is just relative.
Oh, very. I mean, you take a poor person in the United States and introduce them to a middle-class person in Somalia. Yeah. They're doing so much better.
Dude, if you made $100,000 a year, but you lived in Saudi Arabia, you would be a filthy poor.
Is that true?
It's all comparative. Well, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't.
I don't know
what the workers.
I don't know what the GDP of Saudi Arabia is, but compared to like princes and shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've actually watched this thing. There's an interesting thing of all the countries in the world, and it shows their wealth, and I think it's like wealth and health or something like that.
Yeah.
And you watch this dot where, like, for all of them, every single country, as wealth increases, the health of the average populace increases, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just this one dot, and they're all different colored for like different regions of the world. There's like North America, South America, Europe, East Asia, South Asia, shit like that.
Yeah.
And the Middle East is green. And there's this one green dot that wealth is on the y-axis, and health is on the x-axis.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one green dot that just flies out along wealth, but keeps going completely flat for health. And that dot is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, with all the migrant workers, that's probably what's doing it.
The Khalifa system, yeah.
Dude,
where they bring in migrants and treat them like slaves.
There was supposed to be a FIFA championship in Qatar, I want to say.
It's still supposed to be there, but...
weren't they relying on slave labor to build the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like how the Portuguese and Spanish treated their slaves. Yeah. They are an expendable resource.
Yeah, dude. And what's crazy is I've heard cases of people who go over to be migrant workers in the Middle East, and their employers will take their passports.
Yeah,
you can't leave until the job is done.
That actually happens. Yeah, I mean the Khalifa system is fucked up. That's like basically it's very easy to immigrate to Saudi Arabia. It is very hard to emigrate from Saudi Arabia.
Yikes!
Yeah,
yikes!
Yeah, it's legitimately scary.
Yeah, man. Crazy stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's like just the Gulf countries, they still rely on slavery. It's just, I was going to say slavery by the back door, but that sounds bad.
Jesus. Yeah, my mom was looking at a teaching position at a Quaker school in Saudi Arabia. But the trick was I would have to go with her because she needed a male family member to escort her at the time.
Oh. Actually, I got a neighbor named John. and he worked for he's retired now. He got the RRR letter, which is reassign, relocate, or retire. He
Mhm.
chose to retire, um, with I think full pension. Like the dude's doing, I just see him out doing his hobbies all the time.
Nice.
But he worked for most of his life, over 30 years, um, with human trafficking. And I was thinking maybe I just thought, maybe he'd be a good guy to get on the show, get him to talk about human trafficking.
That would be interesting.
I'll talk to him.
That would be very interesting.
I'll see if he's down for that, because he would have some stories and some insight, and I mean, a lot of stories, a lot of insight, and a lot of knowledge, and we should get him on.
It's something we all know is happening in the background, but very rarely is it directly addressed, And
Yeah, I mean, and he was on the force. He was trying to fight it and everything.
Yeah.
He did what he could.
Yeah. But man, as long as there's evil people out there, God have mercy.
I mean,
they'll find a way.
A problem with a lot of those things, which is like the problem I find with drugs, which I bring this up a lot, it's like you're trying to fight the laws of economics. But then you have like more seedy things like human trafficking, where it's like, yeah, you're trying to fight the laws of economics.
Yeah.
There is a demand, and that demand will be supplied. It's just that you're going to increase the cost of supplying those things, and you're never going to get it down to zero. It's very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. But that's the truth.
Yeah.
As long as there's work to be done, people find a way to fill it.
And that's the thing that I've wanted to look at for a long time with economics, is like the sort of how you can best, in terms of a market, affect illegal activity. Because like drugs, that's a very inelastic supply curve. If you're hooked on heroin, you need heroin. But like if how elastic is not supply, demand curve, an inelastic demand curve. If you want to buy somebody, a human being, through human trafficking, I mean, that can't be terribly inelastic demand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if it becomes too costly or too risky to buy a person, which it should be, you might just not.
Yeah, the sad
you're
thing
still
is,
a shit human being who apparently lives around me, but like
yeah, the sad thing is, like 160 years after the Civil War, if you really want to, you can still buy someone.
Actually, it's more popular than ever.
Yeah.
In Libya, the slave trade is popping off.
Dude, the Arab Spring dug up so many old issues, and made them fresh.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
We live in volatile times, man.
Oh, yeah. So let me get to the Battlefield 5 review.
Okay, yeah. That was a good segue.
Hard transition.
These segues are really good.
Dude, so over the month of May, Battlefield 5 has been one of the free games on PSN. I decided, you know what, I'll download it and I'll give it a look, see what's up. I really wish I didn't. Because now that thing's sitting in my library and I have to look at it every time I open my PS4. Dude, that game is beautiful. One of the most visually stunning games I've seen on console. But God, is it substanceless. Yeah. There's so many issues with it. Like you and I used to play Battlefield 1 back in the day a ton.
A lot, yeah.
Every issue with that game persists. The firing models, like the way the spread of the guns is randomized, it feels really bad.
Which is not something that guns actually do. They're fairly reliable and consistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to make up for like actual user error. Like
maybe
you might not be consistent on the gun, but the gun's consistent with what it does.
But in Battlefield 5, good God, is it a pain to play. Like all the issues are still there, man. The terrible damage model, broken spawn system. Don't you love when you click on a specific flag and it puts you 200 meters away from that flag?
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
No, what I really hate is when I get into the game, I spawn into the game, I run a few feet, and then a tank is right there and I'm dead.
Oh, how do you like having no spawn protection?
Yeah.
Because it's not there.
Yeah.
It's not there.
That is why when I play Battlefield 1, which I do fairly often still, the only way to play is operations.
Yeah, and dude, in a World War II game, check this out. There's no D-Day. There's no Stalingrad. There's no Fall of Berlin.
Yeah, that's awful. What maps do you fucking have then?
Rotterdam. Random ass places.
Rotterdam?
Yeah.
Like one of the most the failed operation?
Yep. Yeah.
Did they have Kursk? Did they have the Battle of the Bulge?
There's not a Russian to be seen. You know the people who died the most in World War II?
The Russians.
Nowhere to be seen.
Is there the Eastern Front?
Nope.
So they don't have the second most, which is the Chinese.
Oh! By the Eastern Front, you mean like the war in the Pacific?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, that's my bad.
Okay,
yeah, the Eastern Front.
There actually is a couple Eastern Front maps, and they're good.
Okay.
The map design is really well done. I mean, it's visually stunning. It feels like you're really in the location, but the weapon handling, the spawn systems, every bit of minutia is just wrong. It's just off. And I don't know why they didn't learn anything from Battlefield 1. It makes me very nervous for what Battlefield 6 is going to look like.
Battlefield 1 was still a great game, though. I mean, especially if you got my favorite in the Name of the Tsar pack. That was so fun. That one map that was just so fucking unfair, like Tsarnia.
Yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about with like the cathedral in the middle?
I do.
Where whatever team controlled the cathedral first won the game. But that was so much fucking fun. I didn't even mind when I was outside of it trying to get in.
There was so much more fun to be had in Battlefield 1 than there is in Battlefield 5, which is sad to say.
Yeah.
To take a World War II game and dumb it down than the Battlefield 1942 that they released in like 2004, how does that happen?
And, this is a fun fact. I used to have that on a flash drive and I'd play it in school.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude, that was the move. We also had the original Halo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
You could just download it onto any computer.
Yeah, people forget that was like a PC game. It was out on PC as well as the original Xbox.
Yeah. Or maybe someone just modded it to put it on there, but fuck it, we could play it,
Dude, yeah, speaking of cracked versions of games, this one kid, when I was in 5th grade, he got Quake 3, I think. Some ripped version of Quake 3, and then he downloaded it to like 20 USB drives and handed it out to the whole squad.
Yeah.
Boy, you better bet we spent our lunchtime playing Team Deathmatch, because that shit was tight.
Yo, I spent class time playing video games, bro. Like, if I was in school, I was playing video games.
Dude, did you ever play Battlefield 4?
No, I did not.
Battlefield 4 had commander mode, where, you have the teams, you have the squad leaders. But in Battlefield 4, the squad leaders communicate with the overall commander for the team, and the commander can set objectives and call in extra support and shit. It had an iPad app. Bro, you best believe I spent my senior year playing commander mode in the middle of like my science classes and shit.
It
was tight.
I used to ditch my classes to go down to the engineering room to play video games on the computer down there.
Dude, nice.
Yeah.
Man.
It was fun going to a public school because there were rules.
Yeah, I don't think that's something we've talked about yet on the podcast, our high school experiences. Tell me about public high school. What was it like
about
for you?
Public high school? We had 3 police officers.
On campus.
It wasn't called a campus, but yeah, at the school. The school that I went to is known for being like the worst school in my county. But you could get away with anything you wanted. Which I realized by like my junior year. Yeah, there weren't a lot of rules. It was not. It was not a great experience overall. The schools were. You could get away with anything because there was so much crime at the schools. Like there was a fight a week. Yeah, it was sort of when you think of like a bad public school. I didn't go to like the worst public school. It was still a pretty nice public school.
Yeah,
but it was not. A lot of those stereotypes are true.
So there was like a threshold to be noticed for crime. If you're doing low level shit,
if you're just like not showing up to class, you're gonna be all right. Yeah, if you're selling drugs, you do it in the staircase that doesn't have cameras, I guess. Which was there was a staircase.
Cameras all over campus.
Huh?
There was cameras all over campus.
It wasn't a campus.
All over the school.
There were cameras all over the school, not the campus, because it wasn't a college, unlike you.
Sure.
I didn't live there. Yeah, but everywhere you went, you were on camera. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
they had
panopticon at work.
they would show you like a screen with all the cameras on it.
Yikes.
Yeah, to let you know that you were on camera and somebody was watching the
Was
camera.
there a PA system? Was there an announcement system in the morning?
That's a weird question. Yes.
Okay.
Was there not one for you?
Hmm.
There was no. Okay, so tell me
Nah.
about private school. I'm interested in the bougie ass school you went to.
Okay, so my school was a Quaker school out in the middle of the woods. It was set up like a college campus, so you'd have like an arts building over here, you'd have like the gym and sports area over here, your humanities classes here, your language classes here.
Okay, and I just want to interrupt real quick. There was one big building for me. It was just a big building, and the hallways were sort of divided by subject. Sort of?
Yeah.
But that was pretty much it. Sorry.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a pretty large open campus. Felt a lot like college, you know, so when I transitioned into college, I'd already been living on dorm. I had already, you know, knew what it was like to have to plan out your walk time in between different places. So it was very college preppy, but also very hippy dippy.
See, I had a thing where I didn't do any planning. I was supposed to be there at 7:20 in the morning.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. And you would get a bell to go to class. You get 5 minutes between bells. And so if you had a class at the, west corner of the third floor and then a class at the east corner of the first floor,
Mhm.
you still had 5 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous, man. It's like they don't let you plan a fucking thing. I mean, it makes you feel like an animal.
What did you guys ever have the presidential fitness exam thing?
Yes, where you'd have to run back and forth between the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that.
I'd always heard about that, but that wasn't.
Well, you didn't
wasn't
have that?
No. No.
What? You
Well-
never had you never dealt with the stress and the agony of the noise that just goes boop and then you have to run to the other line
Nope.
and like after like a half hour it starts to drive you mad.
Well, we did it for lacrosse preseason, but that was just for the sport. Did you guys have mandatory sports at your school?
No, we were not mandated.
Okay, that's where
in
we got
sports.
our exercise. 2 out of the 3 trimesters of the year, you had to be enrolled in a sport.
Yeah, we had to do half a year or one semester,
Okay.
which the school year was divided into quarters.
Mhm.
We had to do half a year of gym for 1 year.
That's it?
That's it. That was it.
Yikes.
That's all I did.
How healthy were people over there?
There were a lot of people who did sports. They were pretty healthy. I mean,
Okay.
they were all young still. There was obviously there was the stereotype of the girl who just walks around drinking Starbucks. It's like you're supposed to do the mile and she's just walking it on her phone. That
Dude,
happened.
that was totally me in middle school. But I was like 5'11", 220 pounds. I was a fat little fuck. So I walked the mile.
Okay, so how did because I was always distance. I did sports, but it always sucked because then I had to get my dad to pick me up and everything like that. And I have to stay for a few hours afterwards. Like you just had to walk home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for 2 out of the 4 years there, I was still living in Bowie. So I'd have to wake up at like 6 in the morning just to get to school by 8 o'clock. The last 2 years, though, junior and senior year, I got to live on campus during the week, and I'd go home on weekends.
Oh, okay.
So that was tight. But, dude, mandatory sports after school was exhausting.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's just like we had lacrosse preseason throughout the winter, even though I didn't have a sport during the winter. I had signed up for lacrosse in the spring. So we had mandatory preseason workouts. Then, the entire lacrosse season where sometimes you'd go on trips. Dude, I remember one time, I think we crossed the Bay Bridge to play against a school in Easton.
Weird.
So we'd get home at like 7:15, 7:30. It's like, God damn, school day is long as shit.
Okay, so what would happen there if you didn't show up? Like, let's say you missed for an entire year, you missed a quarter of your classes.
That is, I think they took it on a case by case basis. Because, dude, when I went to the school,
Imagine if you were like me and you just didn't care and didn't want to go.
there was a lot of people with mental issues at my school. So when my mom sent me there, I was like, what are you trying to tell me? Because the vast majority of the guys at the school had ADHD, or some form of attention deficit disorder. The girls, mostly emotional issues. Some of them so bad that there was like people who experimented with heroin and crazy shit.
Yeah, that did not happen at my school. I think that because I went to which is weird that we've mixed things up here, because I went to a majority black school. I think that black communities tend to look down upon mental illness, and so you did not see a lot of people who openly admitted to having any mental illness.
That's fair. That's fair.
It just wasn't a thing that occurred.
I went to the exact opposite. The two schools I've been to, two primary schools I went to, were vast majority white.
That's weird how we flip that around, how you're a black man who went to white schools, and I'm a white man who went to black schools.
It's interesting, right?
It is very interesting, yeah.
It was very strange, there was the school I went to before I transferred to my high school. I was one of like 3 or 4 black people in my class.
That's weird, man.
Very strange.
See, now you know what it feels like to be a minority. Oh, wait.
Right? It was a very strange experience. And
I think that I've noticed about like most upper class institutions in general, whether it be like social institution, educational work, or something like that, you see a lot more people with like mental disabilities, issues, things like that, than you do with like lower middle class things. I don't know, like and I realize that you're not particularly wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but like it was a wealthy school that you went to.
In my high school, upper middle class.
Upper middle class?
My middle school and lower school, the uppest of the up class.
Okay, but you see a lot more people with like mental problems when you get into the upper. Like,
yeah.
Why? You have everything.
That's why. Because people need some issue to fight in their life, and when they don't, their mentality just starts to create issues.
Just fight a guy in the hallway because he said something bad about your shoes.
Quaker schools, bro. That is the one thing you'd get thrown out for. No fights.
Oh.
So people were petty as shit. You best believe people were going off on Twitter.
There were regular fights in my school, dude. And it's like if the fight had nothing to do with drugs or didn't involve weapons, you were fine. I mean, you get suspended for 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, which is just a 3-day vacation. And they're like, well, you have to make up all the work. And it's like, I wasn't going to do the work anyway.
Okay, I see why you...
I did not care. I graduated with a 3.7 GPA.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't
dude.
care. I did not care.
Man. Yeah, throughout my schooling career, even up through college, my GPA wasn't great, but I was able to pass my classes no problem. It's just...
college I actually started to give a shit. That's when I realized like life is hard.
I don't care about busy work. I'm there to develop skills.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn in every homework. I don't give a shit, and it doesn't help me necessarily learn what I need to learn.
Yeah.
But come test times, like I smashed every exam I ever took.
Oh,
that's how I made it through.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, I always did all the work at UMD because UMD was brutally hard.
Yeah.
Can I ask what your college GPA was?
Maybe like a 2.8. I have no idea.
Okay, I got a 3.1, but I had to work because I was also working full time. Like,
dude, didn't in the transfer between St. Mary's and UMD, you said that St. Mary's used like a 4-credit system. UMD used a 3-credit system.
Yeah.
And rather than transferring the extra credits, they just
reduced
chopped them off.
They reduced them all to 3 credits.
That is insane to me. That's so
and
wild.
None of it counted towards my GPA. I had a much better GPA at St. Mary's, and then I went to UMD, and they were like, no, your first semester is what you're going to get, which is I found really messed up because I did not adjust well to the culture shock, which most transfer people don't adjust well to culture shock.
Bro, from a school as small as St. Mary's to that, how could you transfer well?
No, it's like it went from like 1,600 people to over 30,000.
Yeah.
It was a difficult transition. And my first semester I did terrible, so I had to claw my way up to a 3.1 the entire time I was there.
Did it feel like kind of like going to your first year of college all over again?
Yeah, except nobody else was new and I didn't have any friends.
Damn.
It was weird, man.
Yeah.
I was like a fish out of water, and everyone else like that was in my grade just like understood how everything worked already,
Mhm.
and I totally didn't. And also, I had an additional class each semester because it's a 3 credit system.
Yeah.
So instead of St. Mary's where you take 4 classes a semester, I took 5 classes a semester. So I
Yeesh.
increased my workload by 25%. Didn't know anybody. Completely different kind of culture around me and everything. The classwork was just like, this is just true of UMD to St. Mary's. It was way harder. It was way harder, and that's when I sort of had to like get my act together as a person. Was
Dude,
adjusting to that.
a weird parallel to that was when I transferred from Salisbury to St. Mary's. Salisbury, the classes were, I'm not even kidding, easier than my middle school classes. Like,
Really?
yeah, childishly easy.
Oh wow.
So when I transferred to St. Mary's, I finally felt like I had a challenge worth fighting, you know?
Yeah.
Because at Salisbury, I was just wasting my time.
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, at
you know?
UMD, I went from like St. Mary's where there was like a challenge to like, I'd gone from medium to whatever above hard is. You know, I had a class where on the 3 exams we took for that class, the average grade was failing.
Yikes.
For all of them. It was a 62, a 54, and a 64.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, and the professor was just fine with that.
Oh, man.
He was like, yeah, that seems about normal.
Yeah, dude, the biggest challenge at St. Mary's was dealing with the culture, with the people, for sure. Sure.
If you were a right-wing person like I was, like, you talked about it in, like, small secret circles. Like I'm not, like, a far right-wing person. I'm, like, a moderately
Dude,
right,
just,
like, kind of business right-wing kind of...
Just moderate middle ground, you felt out of place.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It was, like, when Trump got elected, they all ran down to the water and screamed at the river.
Literally.
And then Trump instantly stepped down after realizing that like a handful of students had screamed at a river.
Dude, I remember looking at people's Snapchat stories a couple years back of people staying on campus during the summer, and during the 4th of July, they were all waving communist flags. I'm like, yo, my God.
Waving a communist flag should be as bad as waving a swastika.
Yeah. They killed more people.
Yeah.
It's
like
as
perverse an ideology.
I'm glad we got out when we did, dude.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I could take another year there.
I think it's they've been trying to de-weird the school. They've been trying to make it less radical.
Dude, they normied the shit out of the school.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
they got rid of the phrase the slogan "Keep St. Mary's Weird."
Yeah. Yeah, dude, by the time I left, it was almost no different than Salisbury.
Yeah.
The thing I tried to escape in the first place.
I remember when I would come visit the school, it was weird because, people used to hang out in the woods all the time, and there were a lot of weird, like, hippie kind of people.
Yeah.
And all the underclassmen were just, like, normal college kids. And I was like, this is not the culture that I remember leaving.
Sports bros and normies.
I'm not complaining about it. I left the culture for a reason.
Yeah.
I could not stand it anymore, so I went to a normal school, which was way harder, but I'm glad that I did because eventually I became, like, I actually became ingratiated in that school by working all the time. That's how I made my friends.
Nice.
I just worked full time at a bar down there, and I got to know people.
Yeah, keeping your head down to the grindstone. Just a weird situation at St. Mary's.
Yeah, I mean, St. Mary's was just so different than the real world. Like, that's the thing that, like, when, like, conservative talk show hosts are like, these college kids are going to get shocked by the real world. What they're talking about is schools like St. Mary's, not schools like UMD, where you've got fairly realistic... Like, the politics at Maryland was so much weirder because it was centrist. It was just normal politics like the rest of the world.
Collect any group of 30,000 people. Yeah, the average is going to be somewhere in the center.
Yeah, people were very reasonable about things. It was very cool, honestly. I loved it.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I still love my time at St. Mary's because of the friends that I made there, but it was a weird place, man.
Very.
It was weird.
Oddly enough, I liked it when it was way weirder when I first dropped in. It was cool. It was edgy, outlandish.
Yeah, you just found this, like, we made this weird little circle of friends that were just like,
hell yeah,
people who were out there, man.
Yeah, dude.
We had people that were way out there.
Bunch of weirdos, but that's what banded us together.
Yeah. Yeah. And there were definitely some people there were some people at St. Mary's that were, like, too weird,
Absolutely.
Like Weird Will. If you're at St.
Absolutely.
Mary's and your nickname is Weird Will, you're a weird guy.
Yeah, dude. Crazy to think that we graduated. College is over.
Yeah. It's time to just enjoy Enjoy a real life.
Yeah, put your nose to the grindstone, make something of yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm trying to do. You know.
That's the one thing that through, through primary school and through college, that was never taught to me how to, choose a path in life. That was never taught to me. So even to this day, I'm still trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, I mean, education doesn't really prepare you that well for what life is actually like.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
Which don't you think it should?
Yeah, no, it absolutely should. I mean, duh.
What do we go to school for? To like, if I
went to school for the piece of paper.
Did you ever learn how to do taxes in school?
Nope. I had to do my taxes recently. No idea what I was doing.
Was getting your driver's license a part of school?
Nope.
What did you learn in school?
I did learn the rules of 3 in photography class.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I also know about the Rococo period.
Oh,
yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
I'm more of a Baroque boy myself.
A Baroque. Okay. Yeah, I gotta say my favorite era was definitely Dadaism.
Oh yes. Neo-surrealism is the shit.
But that didn't come up in my interview. Weirdly enough, no one has ever asked me about my favorite period of art history. But I was required to take an art class, so I took that.
The most useful class I took in primary school.
That's way more than I meant to get.
What? Pour me half.
You want the oranges out?
No, I'll take it with oranges. I'll go a little crazy today. I'll take it with the oranges. Dude, yeah, like the most useful class I took in primary school was finance.
This is just straight Jamie, by the way.
Excellent.
And it's good whiskey, but it's just straight up whiskey.
The most useful class I took senior year was finance. And it was the I don't want to do a real math class that all the seniors took just to get it out of the way, right? In reality, it taught me how to budget. It taught me how to do taxes. And I'm like, how is this not mandatory, but other stuff is,
Like, I've never understood why, like, art was mandatory. And, like, don't get me wrong, if you like art, dude, art's important. But why is economics not mandatory? You know these people have to vote eventually, right?
Yeah.
They should understand the basic laws of economics.
Dude, I've taken 3 art history classes, and all of them were mandatory. And it's like,
what?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm glad that I took an art history class and that I can speak somewhat competently about art history. I think that's neat.
Yeah,
but that's also something that I could have just Googled or gone to community college classes to learn about and been like, oh, neat.
Yeah.
I didn't need to know. I didn't need to know about ancient Egyptian art.
It's crazy what is mandatory in school and what isn't. I feel like, especially in the public school system, the goal isn't to make independent thinkers. It's to make cogs that fit well into the machine, more or less.
Well, you've heard about the whole idea that, schools are basically designed to make factory workers.
Yeah.
You move around at a bell, you sit in one position for long periods of time as mandated.
Yeah.
You do repetitive work. There's a lot of things that suggest it's like it's basically an outdated idea for factory workers, which we don't do anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels entirely outdated.
And I mean, I hated that because I hated the idea of not having a sense of freedom. You know, like once I got out of high school, I loved it. I loved just being able to do it. And it's like I was responsible after that because I can take care of myself,
Yeah.
I don't need a bell to tell me where to go, which is the thing I think you experienced earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Was that, you had agency over yourself. You decided what you did and when you did it,
Yeah, when it was nice. It was nice.
It's like that's why I think I didn't care about high school is because like I feel like if you're going to tell me to do something, I'm going to find a way to not do that thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're forcing me to do something, like if I get like a general directive from my employer that's just like, hey, I need to get X, Y, and Z done, do it how you do X, Y, and Z.
Oh, yeah.
I can get X, Y, and Z done. I'm happy to do that. I'm a responsible person. But if you're like, oh, first you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you'll have 5 minutes to do this. It's like, stop. I can do it my way. Stop telling me how to do it.
When it comes to education, it really needs to be tailored to the individual. It's not one size fits all.
So what do you think about the idea that like eventually we'll have AI intelligent enough to teach our children?
Whoa. That's heavy, dude.
I've heard like people are talking about, it'll be like a an electronic Aristotle or something like that.
Huh.
Where it because I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty smart because you could just have teachers there to kind of show you, help
Dude,
you out a little bit.
imagine what a
But
learning algorithm could do to tailor itself to you over 14 years
exactly,
of primary school.
exactly. Because I mean, instead of like,
Hmm.
you got a C in a math class and you didn't pick up, geometry in eighth grade. Instead of that, it could make sure that you get geometry before you move on to trigonometry. Like that
Yeah.
seems kind of important because if you don't know geometry, you can't do trigonometry.
For all the obvious benefits, something seems off.
You
I don't know.
just
I
don't
don't know
want
what
AI
it is.
teaching your children? Those
I
children you
would
don't have?
I would I would prefer a human do it, but it takes a lot to be a good teacher,
Yeah.
Like a good teacher can make all the difference in the world when it comes to opening your mind to a specific subject.
And as a guy who went to public school, I have experienced a lot of not good teachers.
I
I
can
mean,
imagine.
don't get me wrong. I would say I had a lot of teachers who were like people who weren't making enough money, who were trying hard, and they were doing what they could do.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people who were like great teachers who I could like, I could list them off and thank
I
them
feel
for how hard
for
they
those teachers who are struggling,
Yeah, but then there were other teachers
who didn't
who
even
just
try.
didn't give a shit
Yeah.
at all. Like
Yeah.
they were tenured. They didn't like how much they got paid. They didn't like teaching, and they just sort of they were constantly in sleep mode.
If teaching isn't your passion, probably shouldn't do it. That being said, think of how many schools we have. Think of how many teaching positions need to be filled.
Yep.
And think of how many people who are qualified and really want to do it. It was like we were saying earlier how something like 87% of fire departments in the US are volunteer. There's going to be a shortage at some point if you don't have people who want to do this and are
Yeah.
willing to get the certifications to do so. It's just like being a firefighter to some degree.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that comes back to economics. You have to incentivize them in some way, and that's probably by raising their salaries.
Yeah, you
I mean, 'cause
you would think.
A teacher makes like what $40 $40,000 a year or something like that. It's not a lot
To deal with
all the shit they got to deal with. Yeah,
pubescent kids coming into their own.
make less than a middle class income. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
poverty, but that's below the middle income of the United States.
Yeah. I feel like it also is highly dependent on what stage of schooling. Middle school teachers probably should be paid the most. They have the most shit to deal with when it comes to kids starting to discover who they are,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
High school, I feel like you should also get paid a fair amount.
You should. Yeah, absolutely.
Elementary school is probably the easiest.
But that's where the foundations are first
That
laid,
is true.
That is,
maybe you just have to raise it across the board because I could see an argument for all of them being either the hardest or most important.
Yeah. Except high school. By that point,
but you got to put up with a lot of shit in high school.
You do. You really do.
You know what doesn't break out in a middle or in an elementary school class? Fights.
Yeah.
Or at least fights that you can't break up with like one hand.
Yeah.
It's like if you're like a small, 40-year-old woman teaching a high school class and the basketball player and the football player get in a fight, you're not stopping that.
Yeah.
It's just not going to occur.
Yeah, you need a lot of support staff when it comes to high school.
Which, fun fact, actually happened my senior year. A basketball player and a football player got into a fight, and the basketball player went to the hospital.
Whoa.
But don't worry. Yeah, he had to leave in a stretcher.
Oh my God, dude.
But don't worry. They got the football. He was a linebacker, so he was a big guy. But they made sure to punish him. He was not allowed to come to prom. I mean, he learned his lesson. He'll never happen again.
Dude, did you go to your junior senior prom?
I went. We didn't have a junior prom at my school. But my girlfriend at the time's school did. I went to theirs, and then I went to my prom, even though I shouldn't have because it kind of sucked. But all my friends were like, "Oh, come to prom with us," and I was like, "Okay, whatever."
Dude, I skipped it. Did acid in the wood with a couple friends. So much more worth it. Honestly.
Yeah, that would have been a lot more fun than prom, where I came up to people and everybody was like, "Hey, man, you want a drink?" And they pull out a flask, and it's like, "Wow, you're like the fifth guy who brought a flask."
See,
to prom.
that's what I wish prom was like. At my school, heavy crackdown on anything like that. I didn't want to go to some super measured social event. That doesn't sound fun.
Oh no, people were bringing flasks left and right. They didn't check us or anything. You just put it in your suit pocket. It was just not interesting after a little while.
I
It's
think
like, oh wow, you also snuck in a flask. Cool.
one of the kids got in trouble for bringing a flask. And it's like, isn't that the point of prom?
Yeah, you do dumb stuff.
To get trashed and
I had a friend
make an
who
ass of yourself?
had a friend who went to an after party. And so my two friends, one drove, one didn't. One got real drunk, and threw up in my friend's car.
Yikes.
Yeah, which is kind of what I after prom, I was just like, I want to go home. This sucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
But after junior prom, that was a lot more fun. But I had a girl with me, so that made it a lot more fun. And that was the thing that made it fun, was that I was with my girlfriend.
Yeah, I think I skipped almost every dance or prom event like that.
Yeah, I only went to them when I had a girlfriend, except for my senior prom, because it felt like there's all this cultural thing about like your senior prom being so important. It wasn't. It wasn't that big a deal. I could have missed it.
Buying it.
Never would have been sad about missing it.
Yeah, it's just a blip in the past, man. Think of how intense a day of high school was, and it's just a memory at this point.
Day of
It's
high school
gone.
wasn't intense. Maybe you and I went to very different high schools, man. My day at high school was not intense.
I was not seeing fights left and right and crazy shit not intense.
I didn't care. It was just normal. That was just cultural. That was like, okay, man, there's the Monday fight, you know?
Yeah.
I gotta get to English.
It doesn't sound boring, though.
It was not. Actually, the fights were always pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But that wasn't hard. That was like, oh shit, they're fighting. That's cool. You know,
Yeah.
it was only when I was like, I never started a fight with anybody. You know, I'm a pretty like passive guy by nature.
A principled guy, though.
Oh yeah, principle.
There's some lines that should not be crossed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I'm not terribly aggressive unless you've really done something stupid.
Yeah.
Which you know when you've done something stupid with me. So I never got in fights, but I was like around, like I had friends who were less intelligent and got into fights, and that's when it was sort of like, that's when the fights like actually impact you, where you're like, oh, and now I'm involved in this. You know? Like I can't let him get the shit beat out of him without
My rugby player roommates.
Yeah.
Back in the day, yeah, they got into some fights. Damn, I forgot our suite got robbed at gunpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. There's some crazy times back in college.
You had a weird suite for a while, man. 42. I mean, it was the move, but it did get robbed at gunpoint.
It caught fire at one point.
Caught fire.
It got robbed at gunpoint.
And I don't know if you want to cut this piece out about the fire, but the first thing they moved was.
Oh yeah, yeah. They threw all the good stuff out the window.
And meanwhile, I was in 33, and I just had a completely different. Like, it was just me, Alex, and Nick and stuff, and it was just the most lo-fi apartment in the world.
Yeah, dude.
Whereas you had the most high energy roommates on earth, bro.
I never would have seen myself living in a situation like that. But you know what? Kind of glad I did. Some fun stories.
Oh yeah, no,
Shit
definitely
was crazy.
I mean, yeah, when I worked at the bar, it's like that's where most of my good stories come from. And most people are like, "Oh, that must be like violent stories." Most of my best stories are not violent.
There's really cool stories at the bar. You meet some nice people sometimes.
I don't also just some of them are weird. Like there was this one time I was doing booths and I had to deal with the bathroom too because the bathroom's next to the booths, and so it's your responsibility. And so there were. I went up to the men's room to check out the men's room, and I push on the door, and the door pushes back and closes. So I push like a little bit harder, and it slams harder even the next time.
Oh, no.
So I shove open the door, and this small petite girl flies into the sink, which I'm thinking there's a fully grown man because this is the men's room.
Yeah.
You know, like I open the door with force this time because it's like the third time, and I'm like. Why the fuck is there this little girl in the bathroom? You know, she's like, you know, she's of age, you know, she's small. And I walk into the bathroom, these two girls leaning back at like an impressive angle, like 90 degrees, pissing into the urinal because they didn't want to wait in the line for the women's bathroom.
Oh my God.
And so one girl was holding point and blocking the door while the other two were doing some acrobatic shit to piss in the urinal.
Dude, that's a coordinated squad maneuver.
And it really was. And I kind of came in and I was like, I'm impressed. Like, I really am, but I also have to throw you out now.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stay at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, working bars, it's got to be like being a middle school teacher. You're dead sober watching people make terrible decisions.
Yes, 100%. People are. I mean,
That's why I insist middle school teachers get paid more.
I remember they made a bouncer bingo, and one of the things on there was a phrase that I heard so much, which is, "Do you know who my father is?"
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Oh my
College kids say
God.
that all the time. They ask you if you know who their father is, and it's like, evidently I don't.
It's a school of 30,000 people. Of course you don't know who his fucking father
Oh,
is.
yes, your dad is Reginald Lewis III. I forgot. You know, he's the most important lawyer in Finksburg.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of the job, though. End of the day, no one's more important than the bouncer. You make the call.
Oh, yeah, no, that's
the
true.
owner, of course.
Yeah, no,
but
I mean,
you make the call on who stays and who goes.
Yeah, and also it's like the owner that we had, he would back us up for anything.
Nice.
I mean, like it
Nice.
didn't matter. He came out, he'd be like, "No, he was Tunisian. I'm not being racist." He was like, "No, I trust my bouncers. I trust my bouncers. You do something, you leave." No,
That kicks ass.
He was the best. I loved him. Yeah, he was a good guy. I still, I go back to that bar all the time and I talk with him because he was just such a cool guy.
Dude, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I actually recently, Ted was asking me about getting security certifications. So I hooked him up with the security company.
Oh, with LDPS?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. I considered going back to that work, but it was just the one problem I had with it was just the commute times, man.
Dude,
Like working
yeah,
in Virginia and
seriously.
stuff like that, because I live right outside of Baltimore. I can't be doing that commute time.
Yeah, dude, to go all the way to like Loudon, Virginia.
Yeah, it was just, and then it's like
No way.
not sleeping all night when you do the overnight shifts and stuff like that. That was just like the one thing that I couldn't do. That's why I started working. I would transfer from that to doing turf.
Yeah.
Because turf, I had a consistent schedule at a place that was right up the street. It was just so much easier. And a thing I also hated was that I would move around so often. So I'd be somewhere for like a month. I start to know everybody. We'd start to chat and like understand each other's personalities and be friends and everything.
Yeah.
And then I would leave. It was like as soon as I got to know everybody, I would be gone.
Yeah,
Then
that's
it was
true.
the process would start all over again. I just after a while I was like, I want to know people and have friends and stuff like that.
That's something I'm looking for in a job. Just a little bit of stability,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a ton of it, but it just wants some.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Dude, working. I remember when I think it was like a year after I got out of high school, I got my first job at Pizza Hut delivering pizzas. That was a crazy job.
You've talked
dude.
about that a lot. It sounds like it was fun.
It's being the pizza delivery driver at a pizza establishment is like being in like a fighter pilot on an aircraft carrier. Everyone else just exists to do their job to make sure you get in the air and you deliver the product.
Oh wow. Cam, have you ever heard of a God complex?
That's not me. That's the job.
You just compared yourself to one of the most skilled people in the world.
I was the most skilled person at Pizza Hut.
Actually, that's a pretty low bar, isn't
Dude,
it?
at
Being the
Pizza
most
Hut,
skilled person at Pizza Hut is really sad.
I'm not even kidding. I was the only person there to consistently show up sober and on time. And that was enough to make way more than every other driver. I was pulling in bank for Pizza Hut. It was tight.
Nice. Honestly, Pizza Hut, they died for a while. I had their pizza a little while ago. It's pretty good. I like it.
Pizza Hut is a lot like McDonald's. It's a solid 6 every time. You're never going to get something extraordinary. Very rarely will you get something awful,
I think you and I have different tastes if you're calling Pizza Hut a 6. Granted, my favorite restaurant is Texas Roadhouse. So I don't know how high my tastes are. Maybe what to you is a 6 to me is like a 9.
Okay, Texas Roadhouse or Golden Corral? What do you say?
Texas Roadhouse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah,
It's
the meat selections are a lot better.
The meat is delicious. Plus, it's so cheap.
Yeah.
$12 for a full steak with 2 sides, and I can get something called a Jamaican cowboy margarita.
What the
That's a thing. That's a thing.
Jamaican cowboy margarita.
And it comes with a little vial of Bacardi, which you can either put in there or just drink. I think you're supposed to put it in there, but
Wow.
yeah.
Dude, I need to hit up Texas Roadhouse.
We need to go sometime.
I don't think I've ever been to one.
The next day, I always feel bad because I'm like, that was too much meat.
That's the curse of the buffet, my friend.
Yeah. Well, dude, Texas Roadhouse ain't a buffet.
It's not?
No. It's like it's more like Outback Steakhouse or
Oh, okay.
or Longhorn
I was
Steakhouse.
always under the impression it was along the lines of a Golden Corral.
No. It's a sit down steak restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I definitely
No,
got to slide through then.
it's the most comparable thing to it is a Longhorn Steakhouse.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
I've been to Golden Corral before, and that stuff is dank.
Wow. Dude,
We gotta go to we gotta do a podcast from inside the Golden Corral. We gotta get people to. We gotta set up a
the
camera.
most American thing I have ever heard of.
We're doing it.
I'm down for that. I'm so down for that.
We gotta find the local Golden Corral, and we gotta say, hey, can we do a podcast in here?
Dude,
We just want people to sit down and talk to us. I don't think you're allowed to bring liquor in, but
it's gonna happen one way or another. That's a given.
Because I've been watching Cold Ones recently. I don't know if you watched them.
Yeah.
I think we need to be more like Cold Ones because
Dude, did you see the episode with Gordon Ramsay?
I have not. No, I watched the one with
good.
Bella Delphine.
Real? Oh, she did an episode? Crazy.
Yeah, she's a character, man. You should.
Can she handle her spicy foods? Because she's British, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming she couldn't handle the super spicy stuff.
No, not hot ones. Cold ones.
Oh, okay.
No, I know. I saw the Gordon Ramsay's hot
shit.
ones.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, he was on Cold Ones.
I got confused for a second.
Yeah, no, Cold Ones is like these two. It's Max Mofo and Anything for Views.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have a podcast where they just drink a lot.
I like the format. I like the idea. Not a big fan of the hosts.
You don't like Max Mofo and Anything for Views?
Not a huge fan.
Do you not like iDubbbz?
Not particularly.
Oh, well then you wouldn't like this podcast.
But I see that they get like huge internet stars all the time.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
I like the concept of what they do. Just I'm not a biggest fan of the personalities.
Oh, okay. Can I ask you? Also, one Hot Ones is great. I saw the Gordon Ramsay one. That was awesome.
Good.
That was so good. He brought milk and donuts and lemon juice.
Dude, he was ready.
And also Bella Delphine on Hot Ones.
I didn't see that.
No, it doesn't exist.
Oh, but as a
was
concept.
As a concept, that would be great.
That would be wild.
Yeah, that would be. Can we start a petition to get Bella Delphine on Hot Ones? Let's get a porn star on there.
Yeah, dude. Crazy that she went from just e-girl to full-on porn star.
Yeah, because she started selling the bathwater and then she lost her e-girl career.
No one really cared. It just kind of happened. It was like, oh, okay.
I guess she still does like softcore stuff, so it's sort of like.
Isn't that weird that it can be more scintillating when it's just softcore stuff, but as soon as they go hardcore, it's like, oh, you're just another porn star.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't sell gamer girl bathwater when you're just a full-on porn star.
Yeah, it's
Who
like
cares?
if Lana Rhoades tried to do it, it'd be like, I don't want to buy your bathwater.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, did you see there was some radio interview that Mia Khalifa did. And the first thing the guy brings up, he's like, I'm here with Mia Khalifa, former porn star, blah, 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 blah. And she immediately goes off. She's like, why do you have to bring that up? And it's like, what else are you known for?
That's why you're famous.
Yeah, like, how do you
be like
get mad about that?
I have Robert Downey Jr. here, famous actor. And be like, why do you have to bring up a famous actor?
Right?
That's why you're right. I didn't bring you on here for any other. It's like that one guy who's in the Ghostbusters who insists about talking about his vodka.
Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd, who insists about talking about his vodka instead of his fucking acting.
Bro, I have to catch up on Dan Aykroyd. With all of the talk of UFOs recently, he must be in heaven right now.
Did you see? Do you watch Let Me Know at all?
Who?
Let Me Know.
Hey,
dude, I gotta send you this video. He talked about those Navy ones, and he's like when it comes to conspiracy theories, he does it the way that I like it, which is very sort of like he comes up with skepticism and just pure logic and tries to break it down for the most plausible reason that whatever occurred.
Yeah.
Like he talked about Malaysia flight, what was it, 373?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And he broke that down, and it was probably just I don't know why they turned. He didn't know why they turned either, but it was probably just that lithium-ion batteries caught on fire.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, it happens fairly commonly. It went wrong that time. But with the alien ones, the Navy videos of UFOs, or what do they call them now, AUFs?
UAPs, I think.
Yeah, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
He breaks those down. And he comes to the conclusion, one of them is probably just a piece of debris, but the other two he comes up with some explanations that might explain it, but it's hard to say.
Yeah.
And like for one of them, he comes up with one explanation that's like maybe that has something to do with it, but still doesn't explain it.
Dude, if it's to
And the other one, he's just like, I have no fucking idea.
if it's to the point where officers in the military have to say something,
If it's to the point
that is concerning.
if there are
Any way you slice it.
if there are flying objects and naval pilots, the most highly trained airmen in the world, are saying like that defies the laws of inertia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay. So I think because you were early today, and I don't know how late you're planning to stay, but maybe we'll have like a quick intermission. I can show you that video. It's like a half hour long, but it's good. I mean, it's high quality, and he makes good points.
Okay, yeah.
Like it's both entertaining and interesting.
Dude, man. Speaking of airplanes and things that can go wrong, did you know you're not allowed to transfer gallium, the element gallium, on airplanes?
The metal that's liquid at room temperature?
Yeah.
Why?
I got to show you a video of this, dude. When it interacts with aluminum panels or any kind of aluminum,
Which planes are made of?
it eats a single drop of gallium will eat an entire plate of aluminum and turn it into basically wet cardboard. A single drop of gallium will take out a 737. It is insane. I got to show you this, man.
How do you transport a thing? Because the boats are also made of aluminum.
Yeah, that's the question.
Maybe boats aren't made of. Maybe that's still iron.
Yeah. Dude, do you
That's
know
probably still iron.
do you know why boats are painted red underneath the keel?
Sorry, I gotta say no because no one can see that I shook my head.
Yeah. It's a special kind of antifungal painting. Not just antifungal, but like it stops clams and especially worms from getting into the wood of the ship. This is the same reason they used to coat ships in like copper and stuff because it would.
Oh, okay,
It's an anti-worm repellent. Yeah.
So does it also stop like what are they called? Like sea urchins and stuff like that?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
That's why they have that red paint. Though it's not always red.
Because my two of my uncles own ships, and they talk about how they have to get like copper bottom ships. They have to put more copper on, or else you're gonna have to clean off all the shit. From
those worms will eat right through the hull, and it's something they've had to deal with since the invention of sailing. Really,
that's crazy, man. That's actually crazy.
It's tight, dude. So many cool things you can learn on YouTube. Just a random,
dude. Honestly,
random day.
I mean that's the closest thing we have right now to what I was talking about with the the digital Aristotle.
It is, dude. That algorithm is tailoring.
Like, do you know how much I know about history through YouTube?
Dude, it's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Like I love history, and YouTube allows me to learn so much history.
Can you believe we used to have to pass history classes, but now we go out of our way to consume as much as possible on YouTube?
History classes are always a cakewalk for me. I love history.
Oh yeah, I loved history.
It wasn't work to learn about history,
but the idea of being graded on something I love anyways just doesn't.
Yeah,
really
and it was kind of weird that it was always about, and not at the undergrad level when I was in college, but like before then, how it was always about like when did this happen? What date did that happen?
Yeah, that's not really the point.
Yeah, it's like what are the bigger ideas that are going on here?
Yeah, like repeating trends throughout history. That's what's important.
Yeah, and it's like or even just like watching how things change throughout history. It's like like the evolution of nationalism from the 19th to 20th century. It's like I understand how the Nazis became a thing because I understand what happened with nationalism. You
don't necessarily learn that by memorizing who each of the big figures was at the time and which year something happened.
Yeah, I know that World War II or World War I went from 1914 to 1918.
Yeah,
it's not really important what dates World War I happened from. It's important why World War I happened and the aftermath of World War I, what happened during World War I.
That's the collision between the standardization of schooling versus the ideals of learning something and the concepps behind it. You know, that's where the two just don't click.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
Hello. Thank you for listening to the Irrelevants. This might be cut up weirdly because I'm an idiot. Thank you so much for listening to the Irrelevants. We have been Public Headasses. I'm here with Cam. I am Seth, and we're signing off. We'll see you again.
Have a good one, folks. See you in the next one.